Sorry to bother you, but I'm sorry if this is a stupid question. Sorry for taking up your time. I'm sorry. I just thought maybe... Stop. Right there. Do you hear it? That quiet surrender happening in every sentence. You're not being polite. You're not being considerate. You're handing over your power, word by word, apology by apology, to people who never asked for it and don't deserve it. There's a silent war happening in every conversation you have, and you're losing it before you even open your mouth. Every unnecessary apology is a white flag. Every sorry for things that don't warrant apology is you kneeling before someone who should be meeting you as an equal. And here's the part that should terrify you. You've been doing it so long you don't even notice anymore. You apologize for existing, for speaking, for having needs, for taking up space. You apologize for things that aren't your fault, for situations you didn't create, for inconveniences that are part of normal human interaction. You've turned yourself into a perpetual defendant in a court where you're the only one on trial. But by the end of this video, you'll understand the psychology of why you apologize, the power dynamics you're surrendering with every unnecessary sorry, and how to reclaim your authority in every interaction without becoming an arrogant jerk. You'll see the difference between genuine accountability and habitual self-diminishment, and you'll learn exactly how to break this pattern that's been sabotaging your relationships, your career, and your self-respect. Now, I need you to commit to something. Don't skip any part of this video. I know you're busy. I know your time is limited. If you're in a rush, watch at 2 times speed. But skipping sections would be like treating half an infection and wondering why it keeps coming back. Each part builds on the last. Each section reveals another layer of how this pattern controls you. This isn't just information. This is deprogramming. Let's begin your liberation. There's a word that's destroying your credibility, suffocating your confidence, and programming everyone around you to see you as beneath them. That word is sorry. Not when you genuinely hurt someone, not when you've made a real mistake, not when accountability is actually warranted. I'm talking about the other kind, the reflexive, automatic, habitual apologies you scatter through your day like breadcrumbs of your diminishing self-worth. You apologize for asking questions, for sending emails, for calling, for responding, for having opinions, for disagreeing, for succeeding, for existing in spaces you have every right to occupy. Sorry to interrupt, but I have the report you asked for. Why are you apologizing for doing your job? Sorry, I know you're busy, but can I get your signature on this? Why are you apologizing for a normal workplace interaction? I'm sorry, I might be wrong, but I think the meeting is at 3. Why are you apologizing for stating a fact? Each one of these apologies seems harmless, polite even, but they're not. They're unconscious declarations of inferiority. They're you telling everyone around you, I know my presence is an imposition. I know my needs are burdensome. I know I'm less important than you. And people believe you, not consciously perhaps, but somewhere deep in their psychological wiring. They register your constant apologizing and adjust their treatment of you accordingly. You become easier to dismiss, easier to interrupt, easier to overlook, easier to exploit. You've actually trained everyone in your life to treat you like your contributions are optional, your time is worthless, and, well, your existence is negotiable. And the most devastating part? You did it with the best intentions. You thought you were being humble, considerate, easy to work with, likable, but humility without boundaries is just self-erasure with good PR. Here's what's really happening. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you're engaging in a power transaction. You're placing yourself below the other person. You're establishing a hierarchy where you're asking permission to exist, and they're granting it, or not. This isn't philosophy, this is measurable psychology, and it's destroying your life in ways you haven't even recognized yet. If this is hitting close to home, if you're, counting how many times you've apologized today alone, you're not alone. Comment below with the phrase you apologize for most. You'll help others feel less alone, and you'll start to see the pattern you need to break. Stage 2. Let me introduce you to Sarah and Michael. Same company, same level, hired within months of each other, both competent, both hardworking, both genuinely good at their jobs. But 5 years later, their trajectories couldn't be more different. Sarah was beloved by her co-workers. She never caused conflict, never pushed back. She'd start every email with "sorry to bother you" or "sorry if this is unclear." In meetings, she'd preface every contribution with "I'm sorry, this might be wrong, but..." She apologized when people were late to meetings she organized. She apologized when she asked for deadline extensions, even when the delay wasn't her fault. She apologized for forwarding urgent information from leadership. Michael was different. He didn't lead with apologies. When he sent an email, it started with the point. "Here's the Q3 analysis you requested." When he spoke in meetings, he stated his position. The data suggests we should pivot to the second strategy. When people were late, he'd simply say, "Let's get started." When he needed something, he'd ask directly. "I need this by Friday to keep us on schedule." He wasn't rude, he wasn't aggressive, he just didn't apologize for existing. After 5 years, here's what happened. Sarah was still in the same role. Well-liked, yes, reliable, certainly, but passed over for 3 promotions. When leadership discussed her, the words were always, "She's great, but I'm not sure she has the authority for that role. She second-guesses herself too much. She doesn't command the room. Sarah couldn't understand it. She worked harder than almost anyone. She was more qualified than some who'd been promoted above her. But there was this invisible ceiling, and she couldn't figure out why she kept hitting it." Michael? 2 promotions, leadership fast track, asked to present to executives, sought out for high-stakes projects. When they discussed Michael, the language was different. He knows what he's doing. He's confident. He commands respect. People listen when he talks. Same competence, same work quality, different outcomes. So what's the difference? Power dynamics. Sarah had spent 5 years programming everyone around her to see her as lesser. Every apology was a brick in a wall of her own construction, boxing her into a role of permanent inferiority. She'd made herself small, hoping it would make her likable. And, well, it did. But it also made her invisible. Michael had spent 5 years establishing himself as an equal, not superior, an equal. He occupied space without apologizing for it. He made requests without framing them as impositions. He stated facts without couching them in self-doubt. He respected himself, so everyone else did too. The tragedy of Sarah's story isn't that she was less competent, it's that she was equally competent but spent 5 years telling everyone she wasn't, and honestly, they believed her. Your story in the comments might be exactly what someone needs to hear. Are you Sarah? Have you been Sarah? What changed for you? Stage 3, the psychology and philosophy of apology. So let's talk about why this happens. Why do we apologize when we shouldn't? The roots, they go deep. Childhood conditioning, gender socialization, cultural programming, trauma responses. But let's focus on what you can understand and change. In psychology, there's this concept called impression management. The ways we control how others perceive us. Apologies, they are a form of impression management. They signal, I'm not a threat, I'm submissive, I'm safe, you have power over me. In certain contexts, this is survival. If you're in actual danger, appearing non-threatening is smart, but you're not in danger during a work email or a normal conversation. You're just conditioned to act like you are. Research by social psychologist Karina Schumann shows that excessive apologizing actually decreases perceived competence and status. Her studies found that people who apologize unnecessarily are rated as less confident, less capable, and less worthy of leadership positions. The very thing you think is making you likable is making you dismissible. Another study published in the European Journal of Social Psychology found that when people apologize for non-offenses, it creates a power imbalance that persists throughout the interaction. The apologizer is unconsciously placed in a one-down position, and both parties adjust their behavior accordingly. You apologize thinking you're being polite, but your brain and their brain are having a different conversation entirely. So let's think for a moment about dominance and submission. It's all about who holds power and who, well, surrenders it. The dynamic shapes not just our relationships, but even how we see ourselves. The Stoics, understood this over 2,000 years ago. Epictetus wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." But he also wrote, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The key here is discernment. Being okay with looking foolish when you're genuinely wrong is, well, that's wisdom. But apologizing for existing, that's something else entirely. In Stoic philosophy, there's this idea of preferred indifference, things that are nice to have, but shouldn't control you. Other people's approval is a preferred indifferent. It's nice when people like you, of course. But the moment you start apologizing for your existence just to gain that approval, you've made their opinion more important than your own dignity. Marcus Aurelius, probably the most powerful man in the known world at the time, wrote in his private journals, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Read that again. You love yourself more than others, but you care about their opinion more than your own. So you apologize, you diminish yourself, you make yourself small. Not because you believe you should be small, but because you're afraid of what they'll think if you're not. Eastern philosophy, offers similar wisdom. In Buddhism, there's the concept of right speech, communication that is truthful, necessary, kind and timely. Notice what's not in that list. Apologetic. Truth doesn't need to apologize for being truth. Necessary communication doesn't need to apologize for being necessary. When you start every statement with sorry, you're kind of suggesting that your truth, your necessity, your existence needs permission. And honestly, it doesn't. Here's where neuroscience comes in. Every time you apologize unnecessarily, you reinforce a neural pathway. Your brain learns this is how we communicate. This is our status. This is our worth. So you're literally rewiring your self-concept with every reflexive apology. And here's where it gets interesting. The people on the receiving end of your apologies are also being conditioned. They're learning to expect deference from you, to wait for your surrender before engaging, to see you as someone who asks permission, rather than someone who acts from authority. You're training them to disrespect you, and you're training yourself to accept it. Stage 4, apologizers versus the unapologetic. Let's get specific about what this looks like in real interactions. The chronic apologizer. Sorry to bother you, but could you look at this when you have time? I'm sorry if this email is too long. Sorry, I know you're busy, but I have a question. I'm sorry, I might be wrong about this. Sorry for the confusion when they weren't the one who confused things. I'm sorry you feel that way, taking responsibility for someone else's emotions. Sorry to interrupt in a meeting where everyone is supposed to contribute. I'm sorry, I just think maybe we should consider. So the result for chronic apologizers is, well, not great. They're interrupted frequently. Their ideas are often attributed to others, and honestly, they're excluded from important decisions. They might be overlooked for opportunities, paid less for the same work, given less respect, and, taken less seriously overall. Over time, their confidence is slowly eroded bit by bit. Now, let's talk about the appropriately unapologetic person. They might say, could you review this by Friday? Or here's the detailed analysis without apologizing for the length if the detail is necessary. They'll say, I need your input on this question. Or the data shows, just stating the facts without self-doubt. If something needs clarification, they'll simply say, let me clarify, taking ownership of the communication without apologizing. They might respond, I understand you feel that way, acknowledging the other person's feelings without accepting false responsibility. In a meeting where contribution is expected, they'll say, I'd like to add something, and if needed, they'll suggest, we should consider this alternative. This approach, honestly, makes a big difference. The result, then, is that you are heard and respected. Your ideas are credited appropriately. You find yourself included in key decisions, presented with new opportunities, compensated fairly, and treated with respect. You are taken seriously, and over time, your confidence just keeps on growing. Notice the difference? It's not about being rude, It's not about being aggressive or domineering. It's really about stating what is without apologizing for reality. The chronic apologizer frames normal interactions as impositions, while the unapologetic person sees them as neutral exchanges between equals. One is basically asking permission to exist, the other is, well, simply existing. Take a moment and look at your last 10 emails, or your last 5 conversations. How many unnecessary apologies did you make? Now just imagine those same interactions without the apologies. Would anything actually be worse? Or would you simply be treating yourself as someone who doesn't need permission to participate in normal human interaction? If you're recognizing yourself in the chronic apologizer column and it's making you uncomfortable, well, that's actually good. Discomfort is the beginning of change. Go ahead and share this video with someone who apologizes for their own existence. They need to see this. Stage 5. Breaking the apology addiction. So how do you stop? How do you break a pattern that's been, decades in the making? Here are 8 concrete, actionable strategies. 1, the 3-second rule. Before you apologize, just pause for 3 seconds and really ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Not, might someone be inconvenienced? That's just life. Not, is this person busy? Everyone's busy. Did you actually do something that warrants an apology? If the answer is no, then replace the apology with a statement of fact or gratitude. Instead of, sorry to bother you, try, I need your input on, or, thanks for making time for this. Instead of, sorry, this email is long, try, here's the detailed analysis. Instead of, sorry for asking, try, I have a question about. Gratitude often works where apology doesn't belong. Thanks for your time respects their schedule without, diminishing your worth. 2, the reframe exercise. Every time you catch yourself about to apologize, reframe the situation from a power-neutral perspective. You're not interrupting someone's important day with your trivial needs. You're 2 professionals exchanging information. You're not imposing on their valuable time. You're engaging in normal human interaction. You're not burdening them with your existence. You're contributing to a shared goal or relationship. The situation is neutral. Your apologizing makes it hierarchical. 3, notice your apologizing triggers. Track your apologies for 3 days. Write them down. You'll start to notice patterns. Do you apologize more to certain people, in certain settings, around certain topics? Understanding your triggers is the first step to controlling them. For many people, the pattern is apologizing more to authority figures, apologizing more in professional settings, apologizing more when asking for something, apologizing more around conflict or disagreement. Once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it consciously. So there are only 3 times you should actually apologize. First, let's talk about type 1, when you caused actual harm. Maybe you were late and wasted someone's time, or perhaps you made an error that created work for others. You might have said something hurtful or broken a commitment. In these situations, you really owe a proper apology, something like, I apologize for, the specific action, and then here's what I'll do differently. Now, for type 2, sometimes you need to acknowledge someone's frustration, even if it wasn't your fault. Maybe the system failed, the delivery was late, or the information was unclear, but you're the representative. In these cases, it's appropriate to say, I understand your frustration. Let me help resolve this. The key here is you're acknowledging their emotion, but not accepting blame. And finally, type 3, social lubrication in genuinely ambiguous situations. You both reached for the door at the same time, or you accidentally bumped someone in a crowd. In those moments, a brief sorry or excuse me and moving on is all that's needed. Everything else? Well, that's not really an apology situation. Practice the command, don't request technique. This is, subtle but really powerful. Notice the difference when you use request language, which is sort of seeking permission. You might say, could you maybe look at this if you have time, or would it be okay if I shared my thoughts, or even, is it all right if I schedule a meeting? But with command language, you're stating expectations. Please review this by Thursday, or here's my perspective on this, and let's schedule a meeting for this week. You're not being rude, you're communicating from a place of equality rather than inferiority. You're stating needs and expectations rather than asking permission to have them. Replace apologetic language with assertive alternatives. Build a mental dictionary of replacements. For example, instead of "sorry to bother you," try "I need to discuss." Instead of "I'm sorry if I'm wrong," you could say "from my understanding," or "the data suggests." Swap "sorry" for "the confusion," for "let me clarify." If you find yourself saying "I'm sorry you feel that way," try "I hear you," or "I understand your perspective." Instead of "sorry this took so long," say "thank you for your patience." Replace "sorry to interrupt" with "I'd like to add something." And instead of "I'm sorry but I disagree," try "I see it differently," or "my take is." Notice how these alternatives maintain respect without surrendering power. Prepare for pushback, especially if you're socialized female. Here's a hard truth: when you stop apologizing unnecessarily, some people will react negatively, especially if they've benefited from your self-diminishment. They might call you difficult or aggressive, or say you've changed. They might say you're not as nice as you used to be. This is not evidence that you're doing something wrong. This is actually evidence that you're doing something right. You've disrupted a power dynamic that was working for them. Hold steady. The people who truly respect you will adjust and treat you better. The people who needed you small will reveal themselves. Let them. Practice in low-stakes situations first. Don't start by confronting your CEO or setting boundaries with your abusive family member. Start small. If the barista gets your order wrong, you might say, "This isn't what I ordered. I had asked for a latte rather than... I'm so sorry, but I think maybe this might not be right." If the delivery is late, say, "My package is 3 days late. What's the resolution?" Instead of, "Sorry to bother you. I know you're busy, but I was just wondering," if a friend is late, you can say nothing, or simply "traffic bad." Instead of "I'm so sorry. Did I get the time wrong? Is everything okay?" Build the muscle in situations where the stakes are low and the other person has no real power over you. Then, gradually expand to higher stakes interactions. If you're feeling motivated, if these strategies are clicking, do me a favor right now, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This is about reclaiming your power in every area of your life. And I want you here for every step of the journey. This community is for people who refuse to apologize for existing. Be part of it. Stage 6, what your apologies really mean. Now, we need to talk about what's really happening beneath all of this. Your excessive apologizing isn't really about politeness. It's not about being considerate. It's not even about other people at all. It's about fear. Fear of conflict, fear of disapproval, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as difficult, demanding, selfish, arrogant, too much. Every unnecessary apology is a preemptive defense against potential judgment. You're apologizing before anyone can criticize you. You're making yourself small before anyone can cut you down. You're surrendering before the battle even begins. It's a trauma response, masquerading as good manners. And here's what you need to understand. No amount of apologizing will protect you from judgment. The people who want to judge you will do it anyway. The people who want to respect you are waiting for you to respect yourself first. Your apologies aren't earning you safety. They're costing you dignity. Think about the people you most respect in your life. Do they apologize for existing? Do they preface every statement with self-doubt? Do they make themselves small to make others comfortable? No. They occupy space without apology. They state needs without shame. They disagree without dissolving. They exist fully, unapologetically. And that's precisely why you respect them. You can't earn respect by giving away power. It doesn't work that way. There's a quote often attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt: "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." But I'd take it further. No one can make you inferior without your participation. Every time you apologize for existing, you're participating in your own diminishment. You're handing them the script and showing them exactly how to treat you as less than. Stop participating. The ancient Stoics had a practice called view from above, imagining yourself from a distance, seeing your life in the broader context of time and space. From that view, can you see how absurd it is to apologize for sending an email, for asking a question, for having needs? In the grand scheme of your life, of history, of the universe, you are here for a cosmically brief moment, and you're spending that precious time apologizing for occupying the space you were born into. What a waste, what a tragic, unnecessary waste. You deserve to move through the world without constantly apologizing for the fact that you're in it. You deserve to speak without prefacing every word with surrender. You deserve to have needs without framing them as impositions, not because you're special, but because you're human, and humans don't need to apologize for being human. Stage 7. Life without unnecessary apologies. Let me tell you what changes when you stop apologizing for your existence. First, you'll feel exposed, naked even. The apologies were armor, however useless. Without them, you'll feel vulnerable. This is temporary. Push through it. Within weeks, you'll notice something strange. People listen to you differently. Your words carry more weight. Your requests are taken more seriously. Your contributions are valued more highly. This isn't because you've changed what you're saying, it's because you've changed how you're framing it. You're no longer wrapping every statement in deference and self-doubt. You're presenting information, making requests and stating positions from a place of equality. You'll notice that some people are confused by the change. They'll test you. They'll try to re-establish the old dynamic where you apologize and they accept. They might even tell you you've changed, and not in a complimentary way. Good, you have changed. You've stopped subsidizing their ego with your self-diminishment. Let them adjust or let them go. But others, the people worth keeping, will adjust quickly. They'll treat you with more respect. They'll take your time more seriously. They'll consider your needs as important as their own. The relationship will balance in ways it never could when you were always in the one-down position. Professionally, the changes can be dramatic. You'll find yourself included in conversations you used to be excluded from. You'll be considered for opportunities that never came your way before. People will see you as someone with authority, someone with confidence, someone who commands respect, because you'll finally be giving yourself what you've been waiting for others to grant you: permission to exist without apology. Personally, your relationships will deepen or end, and both are good outcomes. The people who loved you small will drift away. The people who can love you whole will come closer. And most importantly, your relationship with yourself will transform. Every time you state something without unnecessary apology, you send yourself a message: I matter. My needs are valid. My voice deserves to be heard. I don't need permission to exist. Over time, you'll internalize that message. It'll become your default setting instead of something you have to consciously choose. You'll stop seeing yourself through the lens of how you might be inconveniencing others and start seeing yourself as someone with equal right to space, time, and consideration. The constant anxiety will ease. The resentment will dissolve. The exhaustion of making yourself small will lift. You'll have energy you didn't know you were spending on self-erasure, and you'll look back at your apologizing self with compassion, but also with relief. Relief that you're no longer that person. Relief that you finally understand your worth doesn't require anyone's permission. Stage 8, the power is already yours. So here we are at the end of this journey together. You understand now that your apologies aren't just words. They're power transfers. They're hierarchical negotiations where you've been consistently placing yourself beneath others who are no more deserving of power than you are. You understand that being polite doesn't require self-diminishment. That consideration doesn't mean constant surrender. That kindness can coexist with boundaries and self-respect. You understand the psychological mechanisms at play, how your apologies condition both you and others to see you as lesser, how they create self-fulfilling prophecies of disrespect and invisibility. And you understand now how to break the pattern, but understanding isn't enough, you know that. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. So here's what I need from you. For the next 7 days, I want you to track every apology, write them down. And before each one, pause and ask, did I actually do something wrong? If yes, apologize fully and specifically. If no, choose different words. State the fact, express gratitude, make the request. But don't apologize. It'll feel weird, you'll want to revert, you'll feel the pull of old patterns like gravity, push against it, and on day 8, Come back to this video and comment with what changed. What did you notice? How did people respond differently? How did you feel differently? Because your experience will help the next person watching this video. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear to start their own transformation. If this message resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these patterns and you're ready to stop apologizing for existing, share this video. That person you know who starts every sentence with sorry. Send it to them. That friend who makes themselves small to make others comfortable. They need to see this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. We're building something here. A community of people who refuse to hand over their power. People who understand that respect isn't earned through surrender but through self-respect. Be part of this. Remember, you are not an imposition. Your needs are not burdens. Your voice is not an interruption. Your existence does not require permission or apology. You have as much right to space, time, and consideration as anyone else in any room you enter. Not more, but certainly not less. Stop apologizing for that. The power you've been giving away with every unnecessary sorry, it was always yours. You don't need to earn it back. You just need to stop giving it away, starting now. I'll see you in the next video, and you won't hear me apologize for taking up your time to watch it. Because if you're here, you chose to be, and I respect that choice. Just like I respect you enough to tell you the truth, you deserve better than you've been giving yourself. Stop apologizing. Start existing.